Hey guys, inside your aquarium. So today I was going to go ahead and talk about feeding. Now feeding sounds like it should be easy, right? But as I've been talking to a couple people this week in particular, I've realized that feeding can be tricky. A lot of problems can come from feeding if it's not done right. And so first off, I would say that the problem most people are probably going to encounter is that they're overfeeding their fish. A lot of fish do not need as much food as you would believe. Sorry if there's planes and trains and automobiles making noise, but I figured I'd start outside because it's nice and sunny, and then we'd transition into the dungeon soon enough. And I wanted to show you a little something botanical, magical that came from my water changes outside in the garden. So, how's everybody doing? I think the main things I want to touch on, and we're going to feed some we're going to do live feeding. I've got some Daphnia, some mosquito larvae, some nymphs of maybe dragonfly or something else. They're not super huge. And we don't have in Washington State the big old dragonflies right here in Seattle that are super predatory usually. They live in a specific like subalpine range of the state and on the eastern side of the state. So we don't have to worry about them eating all of our fish and things like that. If you guys can hear me okay, let me know. I've got a mic set up, a shotgun mic. Slash lapel mic, so lavalier, I don't know, whatever. So with feeding, let's go over real quickly the things we can talk about, and if you guys have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But this week in particular, we had a lot of people asking me questions in the comments on Facebook. And even in text messages, I had a lot of people asking me, for instance, I won't name names, but somebody said their Corydoras were wearing off their barbels and their whiskers, and they're actually called onodontodes. They're highly packed with different little sensitive nerves and glands and things like that, to allow them to basically taste, and now they know in a lot of species it's connected to the visual cortex, and so it literally allows them to map the water along with their lateral line, which is what almost all fish have visible on the side. It depends how visible and if it's full length and whatnot, depends on the species, but they have that, and then they also have an inner ear, and all these things are very important for them, as well as with their nose, they have something similar to like a Johnson's organ, which is what reptiles use when they flick their tongue. They're smelling and heat mapping and sensing different things, but fish do the same thing. And that's why their little barbels are important, is because they do a number of those things depending on the species. So right there was one example, was she said that her fish were feeding on lava rock or Oko, dragonstone, lava, red lava rock, that kind of stuff. And they were wearing them down. Well, this can be fixed not by just changing the lava rock, but by changing the food. Because it's likely that a lot of frozen food was getting fed and then getting blown in the current, the filtration system, which I think was a hang off the back maybe, and then maybe there was an airline even too. So there were some currents, and there are in any tank. Even if you don't have any filter, anything in your tank, they will have a current just from heat changes and things like that. And so when you feed them, a lot of times there's little parts, and fish, they're good, they've evolved to eat, but they haven't always evolved to eat what we're giving them. So things like little Cory catfish or plecos, they eat little grubs and bugs and things that are in like the actual substrate, the detritus and wood and things like that in the bottom of rivers and lakes and ponds. And I have a streak of something down the side of my face. Looked like I had a big cut. So all that may be needed in that case is just switching up the food, or making sure that the extra food doesn't float off and get stuck in the cracks, and then the fish are feeding on the lava rock and scraping their nose. Now this can happen on the bottom gravel too, and you can just change that by getting a smooth pea gravel, or getting sand and allowing them to actually hunt a little bit, putting the food underneath. But really what it comes down to is what we're going to talk about today, which is the strategic feeding of, you've got really three major things to consider, and that is your fish, what kind of eater are they? Are they omnivorous, carnivorous, or herbivores? And so you want to figure that out. And when you figure that out, then that will help you decide on which foods you actually need. So if you have plecos or something, you'll need something that has some fiber in it, like something that looks like wood, if we're talking about the wood-loving plecos. If you've got like Peclotia, like an L138 or something, then you don't need to worry about that as much. But most people don't realize that even like pufferfish and piranhas, whatever it may be, they don't just eat meat. They're eating what's in the stomach of those other things, and that also gives them spirulina, algae, daphnia, large amounts of iodine and salts and electrolytes and those sort of things that a living biome and ecology would provide for the actual fish. Whereas in our settings, a lot of times we'll have, say, brine shrimp, seed shrimp, feeder fish, whatever it may be. They're not going to have the right balance of food in their gut, and thus they won't have the right vitamins. Now you can enrich if you're growing your own, culturing your own. Some like bloodworms, some daphnia, and also some pretty much any worm you can buy. A lot of the San Francisco brand, you'll see it says San Francisco bloodworms. A lot of those, they will actually enrich it by feeding the bloodworms just before they harvest them. They'll feed them like omega-3 fatty acids and whatever, omega-6. I think I always get confused which ones they go to the fish, but yes. And, you know, so they can do things like that, and that helps mitigate a little bit. But at the same time, whereas a puffer may be able to eat only snails in the wild, if you have snails from a jar that didn't have a lot of algae in it, you're going to have snails that were eating like refuse and poo. And then your puffers are going to be eating that, and it's not necessarily as nutritious or even maybe as biologically balanced for their gut biome as if you'd had a snail from your tank that had lived in a full ecosystem that has its entire, you know, it's eating algae, it's eating a little bit of fish food, it's eating detritus, dead plant matter that's breaking down, you know, and it gets all of that, and thus your carnivorous fish are actually getting that 10 to 40% of their diet that isn't meat. It's not flesh, it's not protein. If you feed them too much protein, they can get bound up in their stomach, and that happens with puffers a lot, and they can actually die. I've seen it happen with Oscars as well, where people just want to feed them like a mouse. They want to feed them a, you know, whatever it is. So just be careful about that. The other thing, after you decide carnivorous, or omnivorous, carnivorous, or herbivore, is you want to figure out if, goodbye honey, my wife is going to leave me now to get provisions. We have a place called Mainstay Provisions down the street, and even though we're quarantined, they've got it set up like a window where you can exchange stuff like a speakeasy and get your coffee and so forth. They're kind of like a retro place anyways, the way they're set up. Hold on, let me clean this lens. So we'll get inside, we'll start feeding stuff and looking at fish, I promise. And I want to say hello to everyone, but first I want to just show you the setup, and I want to show you the little biological thing and go over what we're going to talk about while everyone filters in. It always takes 10 minutes or so. So that's what this is about. Now's another good time to say, please like, subscribe, and if you want to support, you can support here on Super Chats. That's awesome. I see that I have one, and I'll address it shortly. But I also want to encourage you guys to support through Patreon, even if it's $1 a month or $3 a month. If you want to show your support, that goes a long ways in that they take less, for one, they take less of a cut, but two, it's consistent. So I can see for a month or two out, all right, I've got $150 that I can put towards buying a new tank and a new filter, and then the next month I can buy a light, and we'll have that set up for a video, you know, that sort of thing. And there's a lot of breeding projects that I really want to do this year and show you guys some cool stuff, especially out in ponds for pond season, especially if we have these rolling lockdowns and stuff like that. So you can do that. Also, there should be a link to my Teespring account. So there's some illustrations of fish on there on all sorts of clothing. I mean, every cut and color you can imagine. And I think the cheapest ones are like $15 or $20 that are on just the basic t-shirt, made in America t-shirt, cotton. And then from there, for like 22, 25, 28, you can get everything from like zip up hoodies to leggings, and it's just the same design, which is one biological. I do illustrations for the University of Washington on mycology, biology, botany stuff. So I've done a lot of illustrations professionally for a living, and so some of those I've started doing the same kind of style, a little more stylized. On one side, it's got kind of the figure drawing that would be a black and white line drawing. And on the reverse, it has a clockwork or steam-powered kind of machines, humanity, history, technology meets biology and nature. So it has like a steampunk or whatever you want to call it version of the fish on the reverse. So they're both printed on both sides. And anything that's like 25 or whatever, that's all including made in America on fitted shirts and stuff like that. So if it costs more, there's a reason why. If you want the bare minimum, that one I only make $1 on. So that's that's how I set it up. And from there, I make about 10% off of each going up from there. So enough of plugging myself. Sorry about that, guys. I guess you got to do it from time to time. And I don't know how the membership thing works, in that I have friends with just as many viewers as me, and they are allowed to do memberships, but I'm not. And I know some of them have been endorsed by larger channels, or they're an affiliate of somehow of a larger channel. So I'm looking into that, and I'm also looking into some cool collaborations. So that's in the future, in the works, that stuff. I've been really sick, laid down, laid up, laid down, laid sideways, upside down, because I have had influenza, and then I had bronchitis, and then now I'm just tired and kind of bleh. So that's what's up. I took a nap, and then I woke up just to see you lovely people. I tried to get this new booster, since everyone in Seattle is using their Wi-Fi and their mobile data. I tried to get this booster app thing that makes the wavelength of things, it like compresses them and then gives you more bands that you can use, and so I was hoping that would help, but I couldn't get it functioning right, at least that I could tell, and so that was the few-minute delay. All right, so enough of all the technicality stuff. Back to the fish feeding and the predatory nano fish that we're going to talk about. Let's flip this around. So this is my mess of a carport, and in here I've got mosquito larvae, daphnia, things like that, as well as there's some seed shrimp. And I basically I come in here and I give them algae. So all that broken down stuff at the bottom is algae. And then also I try to give them like duckweed and stuff like that. And the duckweed's not growing well because it doesn't have that much light. And I think just the nitrates are very low also in this water, because there's really just daphnia and mosquito larvae and things like that in there. So that you can see a few of each. But you guys have seen me go to this well, as they say, and collect how I feed. And if you haven't and you want to, you can check a video out on that. Just look it up on my channel. There's another raft of eggs for the next set of mosquitoes to be born. Here in Washington, we don't really have a mosquito issue like a lot of places like Montana or Michigan, or I don't know, other places that have severe mosquitoes. So we get like, if I leave this 20-gallon long tank outside all summer, I'll have no more than 3 or 4 rafts at a time. And I really, in 3 to 5 weeks that our mosquito species, our 2 or 3 mosquito species that are native here, hatch, I really make sure that at night I come out with a light. They all congregate in the corner when you put a little light out, and then I'm able to really get them before they're hatching. So 1, it's not making a huge hatchery or anything, and 2, I'm not near any little ponds right in this area. Also here we're going to be doing more snails and just other other than Daphnia, like some black worms, some white worms, things like that. And same within here, there's hatchlings of seed shrimp, if you can see them. Let's see. And I've been experimenting with water conditions in here, but like, let's see if I move things, if you can see some of the little guys moving. So there you go. So I don't know. None of them have the best nutritious value in reference to what they would have out in the wild with the full ecosystem. So that's what I was saying, why you need to vary the diet of your fish or they will get malnourished, basically. So once you've determined what type of eater they are, omnivore, carnivore, herbivore, figure out what food you want to feed them. You can get spirulina from the store, you can get frozen, you can get fresh. If you want to breed fish or you want to really bring out their color, I'm going to suggest that you feed them fresh food. In the links to this video, actually, is a product called the Hobby, Hobby, just like fish hobby, brine shrimp feeder. That's a really easy one. No electricity, no hard work. You just put a little, like half a teaspoon of eggs that you keep in the freezer in a jar that's airtight. You put that into the little bowl of water that looks like a dog water dish, and the next day, within 24 hours, you're up and running with fresh de-shelled, which is nice too, brine shrimp, and it doesn't smell really bad. And then you can just add shrimp every day for like a week, add more eggs each night the night before, and then 24 hours later, the next night, they'll have hatched, and there's these rings, so you're not going to harvest the unhatched eggs, which is nice. So I recommend that if you're trying to get your feet wet in the hobby of, or in the style of feeding live food rather than frozen food. It also just really elicits some cool behavior, which we're going to watch right in a minute here, in your fish. Like, it really gives them this lust for life that they don't always have, especially in an aquarium setting where they don't have the full diverse ecosystem that they would normally have. There's a lot of fish that are ambush predators. There's a lot of nano fish, like my batis. Each species of batis kind of has a different style. Some hide and jump out. Others kind of float sideways at an angle underneath the lily pads and wait for something to make a splash in the water. And then there's others that just zoom around really fast and just slam into stuff and eat it. So it's kind of interesting. Rico Di Gallo, I really wanted to thank you for the super chat, the $9.99. I really do appreciate that. My next goal is I really want to show you guys half beaks breeding. And then I also have thought about setting up a bigger tank again downstairs, maybe like a 75 or even like a 120, so that we could get some cichlids that are a little more aggressive or bigger, just to get some new options that we haven't seen in my fish room before. But of course, the dozen or so tanks that I have that have shrimp and nano fish and medium-sized fish will always be the focus, probably, just because of the size of my place, and the fact that we were looking for a house and then COVID struck. We had all our underwriting taken care of, and it's probably for the best because of my health issues and everything. We'd really had spent a lot of money on that kind of stuff, and for now, thank God my wife still has her job and I'm still doing graphic design and selling my paintings and artwork at different galleries around the West Coast, which is nice. So, brought to you by Dr. Pepper. They're not paying me. I wish they were, even in free Dr. Pepper. Drink the cream soda version. It's delicious. Next thing you want to figure out, now I've taken long enough and now I'm sure everyone's in here. Next thing you want to figure out about feeding your fish is what kind of consistency do they need to have. So a lot of fish, like for instance threadfin rainbow fish, they need to have very tiny food. So you want to get something like Aquarium Co-op has this fry food that's in a squeeze bottle. That stuff is awesome for little fish, for chili rasboras, things like that. And it lets you control so that you're not overfeeding. Because a lot of times when you just crumble flakes, you kind of overfeed. And as a general rule, you want to put your food in the tank, and whatever's still there a minute later, that's going to be excess. It's going to melt, it's going to get blown away, or whatnot. Now, there are definite exceptions to that, and if you know your tank, then you know your tank. A lot of times, plecos or shrimp or snails, they're in your tank, you know about them, and they're there to clean up that variable of amount. But a lot of times, things like cloudy water, green water, like foggy white water, that's all because of overfeeding and then sunlight on it, or indirect sunlight, usually from a window, combined with overfeeding, or the lights in your tank. And same with normal algae. So talking about food, we're talking about a lot more than that. We're also talking about the quality of your substrate, in that the food that settles down, you want that to be masticated. That means chewed up by the fish, broken down, and then swallowed, and allow the fish to digest those nutrients. There are secondary nutrients in that food that are going to waste, but then if you have something like a cleanup crew, you know, something like autosynclus, or you know, just little why am I blanking? Shrimp, little shrimp eating it, then they'll break down what's left of the nutrients, and then really you're left with a, as they say, hummus, or the stuff of life, the soil. And so that also plays, it really plays into your fish and your tank's health. We're going back inside. I've already harvested the food we're going to feed. And the thing is that the next part you want to, after you decide, okay, how big are their mouths? How do they chew? How big of pellets should I get them? And what should those pellets contain? Then you can see what they like. A lot of times people think, I've tried everything. They didn't eat for 3 days and I thought they were going to die. Your fish, almost all of them, can go for 2 or 3 weeks without eating, to be honest. And sometimes you need to make them go a week and just say, you know what, you're going to eat this and you're going to like it. And after a while, a lot of the species, that's just what happens. They're like, okay, you're right, I give up. But if you've given them something that they really love every time, then a lot of times they will expect that, and, you know, such is life. All right, you guys have seen a lot of me, and let me tell you the last little piece of the puzzle. Then we'll start looking at some of my fish. We'll start feeding some of the goodies that I have here. We've got vinegar eels, Daphnia, little larvae, and then seed shrimp, all harvested and ready to go. Plus, I've already put out my favorite food for shrimp, which is the Hikari crab and crustacean cuisine. They really like that one. I don't know. I think it's for like hermit crabs originally, but my shrimp, my Neocaridina and my Caridina shrimp, just love it. It's a good way to see how many shrimp you have in your tank. That and the algae wafers, the spirulina algae wafers by Hikari, are also a good one in the green pack. And you can get those at Petco, PetSmart. I've even seen them at like Safeway and stuff. So they're a pretty accessible and affordable product, so I like to say, I like to find those and then pass them on. Now, I do have links and brands and things in the description below that I also enjoy. I think there's a few like Onips, which I think are amazing. You stick them to the glass and you can watch your fish feed, and like every fish that's in your tank will come out. Every fish, I don't know what they put in it. I think it's cocaine, but I mean, I don't want to like start rumors, but it's cocaine. And yeah, so okay, so we've got what they need to eat, the consistency of what they need to eat. Last important thing, number 3, is who's with them. how much time do they have, and what time do these creatures feed? So I know that's another like kind of three-parter, but basically, are there fish that you have, such as emerald dwarf rasboras, that are shy, you know, or ruby tetras, or oh, I don't know, your shrimp, your Caridina shrimp are gonna usually come out and grab food in a mono shrimp way quicker than your Neocaridina shrimp. And that's just life. That's how they've evolved. And so you want to make sure when you feed that while there's, let's turn this around so you can see critters, while there's a swarm waiting for their food up here, it would be a good time to, for instance, get a turkey baster or sinking tablets. So see, here's what I was talking about. This is one of the baddest. This is a black and red tiger baddest, and it is waiting for things to fall. It's right in that aerated water where it's feeling along its lateral line, and it's holding still, but it's really waiting to feel, and its lateral line is right where the color tones change in its midsection. It's waiting for something to drop into the water. That's the bottom line. So you want to just keep those things in mind. Some fish, I would only bother feeding them at night because, you know, they're nocturnal. Like, why would you feed nocturnal fish in the day? There's no way they're going to get their share. So, like in this, for instance, I'm going to put in some Daphnia. These guys don't need live food. Some fish really do need live food. These ones don't. So I'm going to put in some live food, and you can watch what, you know, just normal guppies do eating them. They're pretty quick at eating all the Daphnia and seed shrimp and stuff. Now, if I was worried about it, I would make sure, you see the tiger baddest came out from hiding. Let's give him some more. And he's ready to just bam. He's got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, that guy is ready to go. And we'll feed these other ones. Here's a female up here too. The little thing I was going to show you on the porch, I'll hop out and show you in a minute here again. But let's feed these baddest. These baddest boys. So there's a male up there, a lesser male, and a female here, and they're going for those seed shrimps, the vinegar eels, the really teeny stuff. Oh, and there it goes, chasing after a mosquito larva. So I have no fear that my tank might have a problem with these mosquito larvae escaping and hatching, living for 3 weeks in this tank. There's no way with the aggressiveness of baddest. They are very aggressive, very ready to eat and swarm in on food. And they can sense it a lot better than these guppies. These guppies are kind of dummies. They're kind of, they kind of just hang around, and they're pretty derpy. In this tank here, we've already got the Hikari pellets down. We've got a saddled Red Riding Hood shrimp from Aquatic Arts. We've got a red shrimp that I'd rather actually take this shrimp if I can catch him. I'd rather put him with the other lesser quality red shrimp. As we say, culls. I don't kill my culls. I just put them in separate tanks so that I know the quality's different. But so here, what I wanted to show you in this tank is we have, if you remember, we had a male baddest, scarlet baddest from India, Nepal. Incredibly beautiful fish, about twice the size of these quote-unquote females. He died 2 weeks ago. So what has happened in the time since he died is pretty cool. Baddists are one of the species. Clownfish are similar. We haven't studied for sure how they do it, but they change gender. And it's not just a small gender change. Like, it's more, they're thinking now, it's more that some fish are born with both sets of possibilities to be a male and female at birth, and the female traits are the most important. So they need eggs basically in their body at birth if they're going to be a female, whereas to become a male they basically need more testosterone and other hormones and growth hormone, and then they can ignore the eggs and start producing the other gametes. Now this one is trying. This one is half staged. You can see if we get focused, there's blue fins coming in and slight stripes, but that's not as much of a hormonal change as the other one. So let's come back around, and this guy, and I say guy on purpose, has actually, you see the red in there and the blue? The females have no color. So he's actually starting, even though he's not the biggest, which is kind of surprising to me. It's usually the bigger, healthier, pushy ones that do it. This one also started the process back there, but they are transforming. So one, and it looks like we know which one that will be, the one I just showed you guys, will be transforming. And so let's feed them so that we can help them transform. So where did they go? And I like to do pointed feedings, like I said. With Batis, I can just throw the food in here, and yes, they will eat it. Eventually they'll find it. But there's a limited lifespan to any live food if it's not its natural habitat. These guys are living in cold water usually. And so we want to give this little male as much protein as possible to get it to change. Changes to face the strain. All right, come on, you guys. Come this way. I'm going to put food out. You're going to miss it. These guys are so timid that if they had other fish in the water, this species of Batis, even though they are a micro predator, don't get it twisted, they will shred through some baby shrimp and other things if they are given the opportunity. But they see, that's not actually a Daphnia there. That's some other little whirligig bug, and the fish, he got it, or she got it, I should say. This one here, decided not to eat it. It looks like that might be maybe a brine shrimp. I'm not sure. But the Daphnia have little arms that look like feathers, so I don't think that's what that was. But we fed them, and I like to feed them with that pinpoint accuracy and then keep the shrimp busy, because not that the shrimp are going to eat them, but a lot of times the fish will go and start trying to see, the shrimp are doing something. I should make sure I go see what that is. So same with here. I have kept a lot of really shy species in this tank. This is my Rasbora tank. Partially. These are the baby Rasboras. So let's get some food to them. And there's also erythromicron, a few baby guppies. Come on, erythromicrons, come out. And daisy, some blue daisy rice fish. Or wait, no, these aren't the blue ones. These are the yellow daisies. But look at how quick they eat. I mean, there's no chance for the poor erythromicrons that are back here, especially the young ones, to get a share. So what I'm going to do, they all eat the same kind of stuff. So I'm going to put some with the turkey baster back there for them. And a lot of this can be accomplished by feeding different times a day. And look at their colors change. Look at already, I know there's glare, but look at those Phoenix Rasboras. That's why I like them more than the chili Rasboras, is their color. They light up when they eat. They're just like electric. And so do the rice fish too. And you can see now, look, not everyone's bunched up. Now they're hunting. We're getting hunting behaviors. And so let's get some actual mosquito larvae going too. And let's look at the behavior of, say, Tinwinnie danios. They're another little micro predator. they will swarm and eat. I mean, they just ate, I don't know, they each just are taking down 5 or 6 in one line. And you can see the babies are also taking them down. But watch, they just line it up and take it down. Whereas the bettas, yes, are munchy. They will bite. They'll eat the larger things also. But they take their time. They kind of turn around. They're a little slower. Same with these, though. These are peacock gudgeons. And peacock gudgeons can be very savage. I mean, very savage. I've seen them eat an entire, if you go back, I think 3 years ago now, they will eat an entire colony of shrimp overnight. It's crazy what I've seen them do when they're hungry, and it's just they're designed for it. And it doesn't mean that just because they're the talk of the walk in their little community here. If I had an Oscar, or if I had my crebensis or my angelfish in this tank, they wouldn't get food. So what would I be doing to solve that problem? Well, then I'd be feeding something like this aquarium co-op fry food. I just squirt some onto the top layer. It's floating. The fish will be kind of confused and busy with that, and some will fall, some will eat it. And then for the next few hours, you'll have fish grazing on it. And these are all those baby bettas, by the way. I'm really starting to see the color of a lot of them. And some of them are not the best, but others are really beautiful. Some of these white ones, they're all nipping each other's tail. But look at this gal, or guy, I should say, probably. Black and white. Interesting. So it was such a random mix. And also we have shrimp in here. So the shrimp are definitely just hanging out, and they're going to eat the pellets that fell. And sometimes you have to watch out for defensive fish. So these are a couple of the babies that have grown a lot faster than the other ones. You can see how small some of the babies are. Now, they've all been born at the same time. And you can see that the bigger ones tend to have tails that are nipped up because they're fighting with each other. They're siblings. They're not going to kill each other until they're fully able to reproduce and everything. But they do have little skirmishes. Much less than 2 adults would have, but they have them. So they're definitely little micro predators, that's for sure. And down here, this is my hatchery. We've got some angelfish, hopefully. 3rd time's a charm, hopefully. That to feed, I don't want the baby angelfish getting trampled over. They're at their little sticky stage where they stick to the glass, and they kind of just hang out all day eating their own egg yolks. So they just need to be left alone and ignored. So what I've done is I've put a lot of Sawasser up there. And so hopefully where I placed them with the turkey baster was in the center of this kind of fray of stuff, of water lettuce and all sorts of things. Now, likewise, I am glad that I didn't keep any of the what do you call them? The bettas in here. That would have been insane, because look at all the baby shrimp. Remember when I told you that I would be having a lot of baby shrimp around soon? Well, these are them, and they're eating up a lot of this debris and stuff. So I could feed them a little bit with things like fish food too, if I wanted to, but really shrimp don't need it. I have shrimp upstairs that have been eating nothing but the algae grown in the windowsill for over a year. So I just, I wanted to show that. Also, let's take a look real quick at these guys. These are the gold line from Aquatic Arts. We got lots of pregnant ones, which is a good thing. And we had more little fish in here. And when you get too much food in a tank, obviously it becomes a problem. You get things like detritus worms on the glass, little white crawly worms, planaria, seed shrimp, too many snails, things like that. And you can that can be a bad thing or a good thing. If you're trying to raise puffer fish, then that's great. Maybe that was your intention, was to grow them. So you see, just speaking of culling things, I'll want to get rid of this yellow guy and put him up with the other assorted tank. As I said, culling traditionally means to kill from the lesser creatures, but I'm not killing. I'm simply moving them into this tank with the lighter colored shrimp and stuff. So I'll get to questions in a minute, and we're gonna feed a little bit more here. I want to make sure that these little guys are all getting their fill. Up here, I want to make sure that these ones, these are a bigger strain. These tiger black and red tiger batis are a much bigger species than the scarlet batis, and as well, there's some blue batis in with them that I've never seen interbreed, but I would guess it's possible, but they don't seem to. And watch how quick that batis is on it. The rest of the fish are looking around cluelessly. Batis are definitely predators. So now think of that with your baby shrimp too. So that's just something to consider. Now, I have all these shrimp here with batis, and you might be saying, well, that's dumb. But I know that I have one buried female here and another buried one that's hiding somewhere. And I'm not that worried about it until those are born. We're going to give one a test trial, and then the others we're going to find out in due time how they do. And so we've got all these baby erythromicrons. There's 23 it ended up being that we had. If you've been watching the series of me breeding small fish in a small apartment. And we're going to feed them pinpointedly a little bit more in their little section. Now the other fish will zoom in for that, which that's just life. But this is when you start to think about, so if we had cories in this tank too, that's when you'd want something like a sinking pellet. So let me show you how I feed my, my bigger tank. We're going to put the rest of these, you know what? Let's feed the half-beaks something good. I think we should do that. You want something good, Mr. Half-beak? Yeah. Are you going to go for it? They're not the most voracious eaters. They're pretty peaceful. Look at all the shrimp that have decided to get in on the action, even though they're not going to eat. They're not going to eat the seed shrimp and the larva. But oh, there he goes. He's finally eating it. When they eat, their mouth is so funny. They open it so wide, and you see their jaw. Where'd he go? Also, the Pandagaras right here. They should be called rainbow garas, really. Somfongzi, Rasboras, the three of them are right here. Oh, here he is. He's eating over here. And you can see when they eat, they have a specific way of doing it. They kind of want to be left alone. So here's the blue rice fish in this tank. Also, down here, these are all Caridina species. These are Malawa shrimp, and these are also gold nebula from Aquatic Arts. And so what I was saying is, though, when you overfeed, this is bad. Right here, this is planaria. These little planaria against the glass, and they're no good. A few are fine, but if they start to get to the point where they can swarm over food or over eggs and things, you see here's another one right here. They have a little triangular head that looks kind of phallic. That's what you don't want. And so the key is not to overfeed, for one. And what's unusual about this collection I have of Malawa shrimp is I don't know anybody in the world other than me breeding them for color. And so these ones have been bred for their blue hue, originally, bluish green. And then there's also some reds that I'll pull out. But then the same thing goes with the nebulas. They were completely clear. And the nebulas have that white, quote-unquote, stardust. It's really just calcium. They're very close relatives, and they have a shorter snout. But that's really the only difference. And they don't reproduce as much, and they don't get as big. But I've been separating them out and keeping them in different tanks. Here again is that half beak. Hope he opens his mouth for you guys before we feed the biggie fishies. And I swear I'll get to questions and comments in a minute. I just really wanted to show you guys them feeding. I wanted to talk about those three main things. So when you're considering how to feed your fish, you want to consider, first of all, look up what they would eat in the wild. Are they omnivores? Most fish are really, truly omnivores. And if they're carnivores, how big of things do they eat? I mean, if they're a batis that's a carnivore, well, then it's truly a carnivore. I mean, it really eats more flesh than like a piranha. Because a piranha is going to eat like minnows and other things that are full of algae or full of plants that it's eaten or fruit that's dropped, things like that. And they're going to get all those nutrients with it. And same with like guppies. They eat a lot of algae and other things like that. So they get a lot of the chlorophyll and other nutrients that you don't get from store-bought food oftentimes that's aimed at, you know, predatory fish. So in here, these guys are all happy and they're feeding on their pellets. The Pandagara eats the same stuff. And so luckily all of these planaria are also a favorite of his. So that's how I've equalized this out, is he gets to eat the planaria as I overfeed and have, I mean, there's just way too many shrimp in here. It's probably hard to see because they're clear, but there's over 200. I've taken 100 out at once, and I couldn't even tell that I took any out because they're clear, they're so quick, they breed so quickly. And let's see if we can find a pregnant one. Usually, I mean, they just, Malawi shrimp, there's a pregnant one. They have babies. I mean, they'll have up to 50 babies. The females can get just huge. Come on. This one's already had some of hers. They gradually lay their clutches, unlike Neocaridina. There we go. And so they're different size eggs, you can see. Some are teeny and some are bigger. And she doesn't need to turn them as much. So she can kind of just drop them along the way. And so they get really prolific and really clean up a lot of your tank for you. All right, so let's get over to feeding a more normal tank. Okay, so here we go. This tank, big old crazy tank. Then I'll answer all your questions, I swear. My sidetrack brain. So what do we got going on in here? We've got these big old bruisers. These guys will eat, I mean, they'll eat baby. If I don't feed them daily, they will eat the endlers even. And they are tiger barbs, albino tiger barbs. They're just, I mean, they're kind of the balloon. They're not true albino, but that's what they're sold as. They're the balloon molly body kind of thing, same deal. And they can eat a lot, and they're grumpy. Guppies, these are all my tiger endlers. Actually, they're not guppies, they're endlers. And they're a little smaller than most guppies, the males, and so they have to watch themselves. Now, the other thing that I have in here that is big trouble in Little China, well, Kaifit danios, they can get very nippy, as can zebra danios and some of the giant danios. I mean, this is all relative, of course. If you throw an Oscar in, the Oscar is going to destroy anything like that. But when talking of small fish, up here we've got the rainbow, the luminatus, Pseudomagil luminatus, red neon rainbow fish. Not the neon dwarf rainbow fish, mind you, if the names aren't confusing enough. But then we also have cichlids in here. We have the Honduran red point cichlid that now is about 4 inches long. And he can eat a lot of shrimp, which he does, yet those shrimp still keep breeding, so good for them. He'll make an appearance when I start feeding here in a sec, I'm sure. And this is a very densely planted tank on purpose because I really want some of these tetras to be spawning. And then up here what I've done is I've built this new reef. So there's a wall here that right here, my finger's touching it, stone. And up here, the big fish can't get through it as easily. They can if they really force their way. But look at this. This is all then moss and then roots here. So for feeding, you cannot feed this area up here with big macro size food, like you know, a larger size bug bite or flake food. It's going to sit because only these little minnows and shrimp are going to be able to, not minnows, little fry are going to be able to eat it. And then it'll build up ammonia and throw off your tank. So what we're going to do here is, so that these little fry don't come out and get slaughtered, is we're going to feed them all the way back here. All the way back. And this will fall down through the moss. A lot of fish food has a lot of oil and fats in it. Obviously, proteins. And so you'll see it kind of push the water aside. And now what I usually do is I put a dab of it enough not to be drawn. You can see the main concentrations are over there. But I've put enough that I'm not, that they can smell it. Like, look, here's a dumb baby. That just sounds wrong. Here's some dumb fry that shouldn't be coming out. But what if I don't do this, the bigger fish will smell that I put food out, and they'll head and jump over the rocks even to get at this. Whereas here, they're just kind of swarming. Let's zoom back out again. So they're going nuts right now just over their normal food, or the normal fry food. So now what's going to happen is we're going to give them their color enhancing omega-3 flakes. And this is going to get a little crazy probably. This is where the larger fish, you can see the larger fish rippling the surface over here. They're attempting to bug the minnows, or the fry, I should say. But here, this is where extreme waste can happen if you're not careful. Because if you have no cleanup crew down below, then it's just a feeding frenzy up above. I mean, watch how quickly they'll clean out the top water. There's almost no food compared to that was solid with flakes. Here, I'll do it again because they'll eat that much. And we'll feed these Danios from Lake Inlay up here too. They'll nail that and bring it all away. So, and I want leftovers from this. They eat so much. And you don't want to necessarily have your fish gorging on food. Okay, so this is taking care of all of the upper fish that are eating, the mid-sized predators, the larger predatory for this tank. So here's a Honduran red point right here. And it's waiting not for the food to necessarily drop. I mean, it may eat some while it's sitting there like this. It wants the little fish. So it's waiting for endlers and things like that that are preoccupied. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take bug bites, Fluval bug bites. I like them. Tropical formula, different things. You can also get cichlid food that floats or sinks. This is all going to depend on your fish. And you can ask me questions, ask the group questions. But then I'm going to put sinking pellets in the same spot over there. But I'm going to choose a few other spots because don't forget, I have autosinkless. I have Pandagara. I have, let's see if they're visible. And now the shrimp are going to eat the leftovers here. But if I didn't have a balanced ecosystem, these micro predator fish, there's a Pandagara right there that just came in right in perfect timing. If I didn't have that balance, my nitrates would be spiking high. If I didn't have the plants and I had this food problem, then it'd really be an issue and I'd have ammonia problems. So you kind of have to know your tank and know your bioload, how much they eat. I like to say if it's not cleared in a minute by everyone, it's not, you're feeding too much. Unless you know there's secret crews that come in and feed. So here we have snails, we have a few hundred shrimp. We have all sorts of things that are going to join. But so I'm going to feed these sinking pellets out of the way. And they're actually just kind of, I guess, earth colored. And so that's going to encourage, there's Corydoras, there's other fish in here that are like pleco juveniles. And then here we go. Here comes the snails. So now we're going to have every layer kind of taken care of. But what happens is, sometimes the little fish are really hungry, so I'll sit and I'll watch, and if I decide that the little fish are really hoovering up all the little bits, and the best time to do this is in sunrise or in the morning, honestly, just because that's when your fish are going to be feistiest for food. But then I can decide, all right, we need to kick it up one more level. And this would have been working the same with the live food. I would have fed the live food now, after they've already mostly gorged on other stuff, because sometimes certain tanks, certain dynamics, they will get far too aggressive, and that can happen with Hunter and red points, with cichlids, with angelfish too, with a lot of fish, with peacock gudgeons. But really what matters is if they have friends too. So if there's anybody that challenges them in the tank, I shouldn't say friends, but if they have fellow fish that also can cause problems. So I'm going to feed some sinking pellets that are specifically more algae and detritus geared for the plecos. Oops, that one went on a lily pad. And so even though we don't see them right this second, I know about them, and they might pop up in a minute, but I'm going to put them in the corners. Here we're going to see probably, yep, we've got the little shrimp going, or the little fish going, but also if I can get them to show up without scaring them off, we also have shrimp all through here eating too. So this whole ecosystem is a foot deep, and so you got to keep that into mind too. Sometimes it's very hard to keep track of how many of your critters you have when you haven't seen them all at once. It's very hard to know. And the flow of your tank's going to be important, obviously. If you give them food and it all blows into cracks and crevices and into the moss and other plants, it'll probably rot there, and only maybe some catfish, some scavengers, if you have them, will find that food. And at night, your shrimp, your snails, that's what those are great for. So it always puzzles me when people are like, I don't want my snails, I have a million snails. Well then stop feeding them. That you wouldn't have snails. You should be happy you have snails. You have so many snails because you're providing them enough food that you have too much food. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. And this is definitely a mishmash tank that I want to redo. I'd like to make it a hill stream tank once again with real fast flowing water. Now we're going to see now the loaches are coming out. And yes, a lot of people would say this tank is overstocked. It kind of is. It's definitely pretty dense with the vegetation. I trim it, and there's pockets of areas where the fish congregate, and they have little paths they all follow, like deer footpaths almost. But these loaches will come out, then the corridors will come out, and then sometimes not even till night, you'll get all this cleaned up by my ancestress. And there are 6 ancestress at least in here. Here comes one ancestress right now. They're juveniles, and they've never seemed to grow very much. But as I said, those multi-bar dwarf loaches are also great. Here comes one of the plecos right now. You can see its big old head. Oh, I startled it. So see, they're really shy too, which is kind of surprising to a lot of people. You know, it's probably the biggest fish in the tank, and nothing hurts it, but it just gets out-competed. And so another thing, if I didn't want to feed this much, so I usually do this every other day, because this is a lot of food going into the system, and they're going to make a lot of poop and ammonia, and it'll spike. So I could either feed half as much and keep them all competitive and fighting. Look at this, they pushed aside their lily pads that much. Or I can just not worry about it and just let them figure it out. So you can see all the babies still eating up here. And the amount of a poof of the little dust that goes into this food versus crumbling flake is so much less ammonia for your tank. So much less. I mean, it's unbelievable what a saver that is for not causing ammonia spikes and things. Because the other thing you have to remember is that your bottom feeders are just that in a lot of cases, and shrimp, And they still want biofilms. They want the Aufwuchs, and they want the little seed shrimp and little critters and planaria and hydra and all sorts of stuff that we think of as pests, snails, baby snails. People don't think of it that much, but baby snails are a really prime food for a lot of fish, even that you wouldn't expect, like guppies and things. Now I'm excited for her to finally give birth. She's getting close, and I'm worried in that when she gives birth, I can see eyes on those baby shrimp now in her belly. You see that? You see the little dots? So she's going to be giving birth within 5 days. That's what that means when you see the eyes. This guy or this gal just got buried, so we don't know when she'll give birth. Probably 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't know. It depends on their metabolism, the temperature of the water, and so forth. And we'll be watching, though, and I might move them, and this is one of those odd things that I do and a lot of other people wouldn't do, but I would move them to a little 5-gallon tank or something like that. These guys kind of look like an American flag, don't they? But look how colorful they are now that they ate live food. Oh, that's not even the alpha male either. That was just one of the males. Here's another male. But they get this beautiful magenta color, especially if I had good light or natural light on them. This one's got nice red color on it right now too. But in another video, people were like, oh, why are your fish so dingy? I'm like, well, I just woke them up in the middle of the night. They have moods. And you won't see this full color, this full spectrum, the beauty that is in your fish. In your baby fish, you won't be able to figure out who's got health problems, who's not feeding. Like, if I notice that the white guy with red fins is in the corner doing nothing every time I feed live food when everyone else is competing, he's the runt. I got to keep an eye on him and figure out why he's not putting on weight, you know. And with these bettas, it's really easy because they all look somewhat different. I mean, look at that one back there. It's like a foggy white and black and gray. So yeah. Now, the other thing I was going to show you outside real quick, and then I promised, like I said I would, I will answer your questions and interact with you like a sane human being. We're not going to feed my big tanks today. My cribs have a clutch of eggs that has molded quite a bit, and there's not many left, but I don't want to stress them, so I'm just letting them do their thing. But last 3 days alone, my succulents have reached for one another. So my chicks and hens, they're reaching for one another. And it just shows you the chemical signals that plants put out. You can see the chicks and hens. These aren't all chicks and hens. There's just a couple in these mixes. But they're all coming out and leaning towards. These ones are coming out and around, and they'll get stacked really tall and then flop down. This isn't a chicken hen. This is another kind. But this pot down here, we did not plant. So either a bird or a piece of it dropped off and inoculated that. You can see this is weeds. This is actually, there's bacopa, and there's all sorts of hygrophila, and even like duckweed pieces and some moss have gone into these planters because I have poured aquarium water into them, which is just, I don't know, it's kind of a fun little experiment, or not experiment, but, well, yeah, experiment. Let's call it that. All right, guys, I need to look at the chat. Thank you for sticking with me on my rant of all rants. I want to welcome everybody who's here. I hope you guys learned something or liked something in all that. I'm really having to scroll back, so pardon me. I'm going to scroll back to... Okay, I'm going to scroll back to say hello to when looks like RC Pro camera guy started getting shut up by Ginger. She started putting the band hammer down. All right, so hello, Sherry's Aquatic Haven, or Heaven, oh, Haven. Yes, Haven. Zen Ginger, JN. Maybe I won't say hi to RC Pro camera guy. Looks like he's been shut up a bunch of times. Thank you, Ginger, for handling whatever needed to be handled. You're the best. All right, Sherry's Aquatic Haven again. Hello. I'm just looking through this. See if anything applies to me. Redfish, bluefish, what is up, my brother? He will be making an appearance on my channel, or me on his, shortly. He is a master. You should check out his channel as well. Master of the tissue cultures, and he has kind of a Zorro-esque identity. If you can put together, if you've been a fan of my channel for a long time, you might be able to figure out put some pieces together of where I got when I gave you guys all that crazy deal through a friend to get tissue cultures at a ridiculously cheap price for rare stuff. The man who knows it all scientifically, start putting the pieces together. All right, guys. GRB Aquatics, hello. Yeah, he said he had fish that lasted 6 weeks without food. Family tragedy, only adult fish, but all returned fine. Yeah. What is up, Fish Dreams? What's up? What's up? Also, thank you for throwing up the links, Ginger. You are the best. I guess you weren't driving home tonight. Yeah, so also, by the way, I'm out of all plant fertilizer for like a month now, and I have no new soil. All my soil is over 6 months now old in any of those tanks. But I just ordered a 222-pound bags of Amazonia 2 is what no, Amazonia Original is what I got. Never mind. So the stuff with all the ammonia and nitrates. Let's see here. Anytime Apistos. Oh yeah, I should show my Apistos upstairs. We might be moving the Apistos downstairs so that we can watch them have their babies. Ooh, Ginger's talking about C23 Corys, I'm guessing. I love those. Alex, I have baby angelfish eggs and they're about to be free swimming. I need help. What do I feed them? Well, they will live off their egg yolks for a week or so, 5 days. And then what you want to do is you want to feed them infusoria, ideally. Get them on their own in a little area that has running water, constantly clean running water going over them, or very tannic water where the bacteria won't affect them, because they're super prone to bacteria. That's what keeps happening to mine in the breeding colony style. Or you can choose to leave them with the adults if the adults are acting like sane adults, but oftentimes they'll chow down when they get stressed on their babies. But for about a week after that, infusoria, I have videos on how to make infusoria with a little bit of kale, a little bit of lettuce, whatever you need. And, you know, you can get it going with the stuff you have at home for sure. And then after that, I would recommend vinegar eels and baby brine shrimp for sure. Let's see here. Sorry guys, I feel so behind. I should have kept up with you. I was just on a roll. I did the talking thing, and sorry if you guys, you know, I ramble and I jump all over the place, but it's like a vlog. It's like when you guys are, if you guys came over to hang out and you asked me to explain something and nobody was able to talk or ask questions, I'm sure that sounds fun. That's kind of what you get here. That video you did the vinegar eels, how long before you see the eels and they're ready to go into the feeding tank? Vinegar eels will appear within a few days usually when you have either the eggs or a few vinegar eels to start. And then it's a matter of duplication, and I think they duplicate every 2 weeks or so. They double like in density up until a carrying point. But I mean, if you give it a month, I mean, in just not total shade, but semi-shade in a room that has some indirect natural light, they'll do great. Yeah. Secret history, I moved the erythromicrons to my bigger tanks. After moving them, I realized I had babies. Thankfully, I had vinegar eels. That is awesome. So you got them to colony breed some babies. So that means you had a good density of fish food, or of plants for the fish to hide, and that is awesome. Very cool. Let's see here. Jeff Chambers, you got $1,200 or $600 per week one. Oh, I don't know what we're talking about. I'll just shut up. I'll just keep scrolling real quick and then we'll be caught up. Rob's Ray TV, thank you so much. From the Aquarium Guys podcast. Guys, check out the Aquarium Guys podcast. There's some really interesting topics. He has one on Project Piaba, which I was really into when it was first getting set up, and it's very interesting. So check that out. It's kind of a non-profit for indigenous people and locals in Brazil, South America, and getting a fair trade, fair price without ruining the fishery down in South America of things like neon green tetras and things like that. All right, guys, I might just skip to the bottom here in a minute. What substrate? Usually I use the substrate, if you see the gravel and stuff, then it's just different size gravels. But usually I do Fluval with ADA Amazonia mixed together, and sometimes I'll throw some gravel in there too, because the ADA Amazonia of all brands packs a big punch of nitrites, nitrates, and some ammonia and things like that. Plus it brings the pH down. So depending on what fish you have, you could just do half of that or a third of that, and it will break down. Your plant roots will seek it out just like they do root tabs. They can sense it. That's why the chicks and hens on my porch can search things out. I can't remember the name of it right now, but that is the way they kind of reach. They have chemical smells, and they communicate with each other. Fish Tropic, what's up? How's it going? Hey Alex, hope all is well. Stopped in to smash that like button for you. I'm sure. J-Rad Iron Man, what's going on, buddy? How's it going? Thank you for this super chat. I appreciate you. El Tropico, Chevy Fish, what's going on? Have you ever spawned Pseudomagil Ivanstops? I have. I did it with salt water, and then I got tired. It was too much work, and I gave up. All right, let's see here. But I think I did a video on it. I definitely did one on the Gertrude, Aru2 Gertrude Pseudomagils. Aru2 from the Aru Islands. They're a white with beautiful markings, kind of clearish, milky white fins. Just love them. All right, JH, hello, what is up? Joseph, how is it going? My brother, my friend. WTF MRB, what is going on with you as well? Thank you so much for the super chat. NOK, what country is that? Knock? No, is that, it's not yen. Okay, I'm lost. All right, so now that we're caught up, let's just summarize real quick. If you've stayed with me this far and you haven't already, please like, subscribe, click that little bell. And if you want to help out on Patreon. Times are tough. I know they're tough for you. So if you can't help out, you help out just by watching, commenting, sharing, and being here, being a part of the community. It means a lot. We're all feeling a little either lonely or maybe on edge if we've been with our same group of people on our life raft for the last few weeks. I'm on, I think, day 49 now, maybe, of mine, since I started before everyone else because of my Norway. Well, I don't speak any Norwegian. I do have some Norwegian blood, so that'll have to do. But thank you so much, my friend from Norway. Guten Tag. I know that's German. I'm so sorry. So yeah. But I appreciate the super chats as well tonight. That is awesome. And I encourage you to check out the channels I mentioned when I was doing the rundown, which I should have done at the beginning, but you know, not everyone was in here. So that's Redfish, Bluefish. Check out that channel. The Aquarius podcast, Aquarium Guys podcast. And then also there was another channel that I'm forgetting that was in here. Well, Joseph, obviously, JH Aquatics. Check out his. He's been in the biz and a great resource for quite some time. So that the summary of this all, you can check out the Teespring, you can check out the Patreon. That's all the advertising crap. And a lot of the things that I use to feed that you saw, even just turkey basters and stuff. Just, you can look in my links. I've got some affiliate links to Amazon if you want to do your own brine shrimp hatchery, the one that deshells, doesn't use electricity. You can use it you could use it camping, honestly. Like, it's that easy, doesn't require an air pump, doesn't require a lamp, light bulb, or any, and it doesn't have an air compressor, which, yes, you get more out of those as far as per eggs you put into it, but it smells a lot stronger. And so my wife was like, don't do that. So just getting 2 of the hobby ones is the hobby brand from Germany. They're affordable. They're totally worth it. For me, they've doubled my output of babies, as well as just having a tub in your backyard. It's that time of year. Fill up a tub, put some leaves and dirt in the bottom, throw some algae tabs, some spirulina in there, and just walk away for a month or 2 and see what's there. You can also introduce worms and parasites to your tank that way. So I recommend, if you can, to do it on the 2nd floor so that it's only flying bugs rather than like worms and things. And then you can skip the literally going out to just grab random plants. But if you do that, you will actually get, you'll actually get some interesting results sometimes. Some new daphnias, some copepods, things like that. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just kind of look under the microscope, see what's there. If anybody's getting sunken belly or anything like that from me feeding them bizarre mixes of things, I'll feed from one tank first. You know, I'll try it out on the guppies. They'll tell me if there's something nasty in it. You know, and they're very resilient in my hands, I suppose. But yeah, so that's just the things. And I hope that you keep in mind when you're feeding your little nano predators or your nano aggressive fish and shy fish alike, that you strategically feed them. You know, feed some floating food if there's a swarm at the top. Then also place some sinking food. If you do it the other way, a lot of times the aggressive ones will follow the sinking food, and even though they're not going to even dream of eating it, they'll put it in their mouth, they'll run off with it, they'll fight over it. It's silly. You can use that as a diversion if you want, but I find it that they just hide the food and then it breaks down, and only snails break it down. And if my tank doesn't have enough snails and planaria and shrimp, then no one's gonna eat it. But it is magical that my Pandagara loves planaria, because that tank, with the amount of shrimp I have in a 17-gallon with hundreds of shrimp in there, there's a lot of extra feeding that goes on and a lot of shrimp poop. The whole bottom, like if I squeeze the turkey baster bulb, it ends up just wafting up these little teeny pellets of shrimp poop. But it's an interesting, it's for the plants casting. It's just like worm castings. So yeah, I see 37 likes. Maybe we're at 38. I don't know. Oslo. Ooh, I'd love to go to Oslo and meet, you know, Whitechapel and all those nice guys, right? Is that the right place? Or Linden? No, what's it called? Nah, I'm not even gonna go there. Until the Light Takes Us. I watched that documentary once and I was like, oh dear. I lived through the black metal stuff as a middle schooler. It was just when that was going on, Dark Throne and all that stuff. But I didn't realize just how crazy it got with Vikerness and all the cannibalism and nutso-ness. But I know that's not what your whole country's about. Obviously, it's about socialized health care and left-leaning economics, which is fine with me. You guys have a great cost of living, great GDP, all that kind of stuff. So something's working. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining me on this evening. I'm sorry I haven't made so many videos. I have just really been run down. Today I was so excited to come and talk to you guys, though. I was so happy. If you want to hit me up, lastly, on PayPal, because you don't want YouTube to take 30 to 70%, depending on if I get demonetized. If I get demonetized, they've taken up to 70% from videos. But you can hit me up at Alexander J. Williamson at paypal.com as a friend, family gift kind of thing. We're all friends. Unless you're like doing a ton, then we should do this legit, you know, obviously. But yeah, that is that. I hope you guys get your stimulus money. It'd be great if you're in the US to maybe, if you don't need to spend it on rent and stuff, there's not that many places open. So check out like Aquatic Arts or Lucas Brett's or, you know, various, I would recommend, I mean, there's also places like Flip Aquatics and Arizona Gardens, but I would really recommend more mom and pop local or places that breed. So I really push Aquatic Arts. There's discounts and coupon codes in my description. I don't have any affiliation with Lucas Brett's as far as getting any kickbacks or anything, but I just love the way he does things and want to support him as a human being because he's awesome guy. And I do his merch art for him and stuff. And then also, I've been in the talks with doing some collaborations. So if you guys want to collaborate, if you have a channel, feel free to reach out. I'm not scary. And now we are all on these FaceTime things nonstop, so we can figure that out. Thank you so much, Ginger, for putting the email, the Gmail, the mail, and my PayPal account. If you want to give without the barrier of YouTube taking it. Because if I say something like, fuck, then oftentimes they'll just take a big old chunk of things. Or if I say something like the Modelo disease, but I say what it actually is. All those videos got demonetized. And it went from like, you have $500 in super chats in the last 45 days or whatever on the graph I was looking at, and it dropped to 210, and I was like, oh man. So I feel like that's disingenuous to the people and to me. So I hope they refund you for those videos if they still take a chunk that's that heavy, and then only pass on 30% or 50% or the 30% they're supposed to pass on 70% usually anyways. They take 30% normally. Enough of all that. You guys don't need to know that. What I really want to say is thank you for joining me. Feed your fish right. Think about how you do feed your fish. It's important. It affects water quality. It affects interactions. It affects if your fish are going to spawn and breed. Yeah, it's at Gmail, but if you want to look me up on PayPal to donate something, you go to paypal.com, and my account name, you can just enter Alexander J. Williamson, no spaces or anything, no caps. Alexander J. Williamson at gmail.com. It'll pull up my profile. You can do a gift thing if you want, or you can email me at my Gmail. They just so happen to be the same. All right, guys, enough of all those formalities, but thank you again. I hope you're all doing well, resting up, not getting too sick with any sort of viruses. But I will talk to you later. And please in the comments, let me know what you'd like to see next. I need to get back to the history videos and things. They take a lot of research and time, which is fine. I love it. But I've just been very preoccupied and very just drained. So tonight was a good time. This was me going out and partying, the equivalent of it. So thank you for spending the night with me, you guys. I had fun. You know, I guess probably because I just talked and talked and talked. And nobody interrupted me, and I'm a big old jerk face. All right, guys, I will talk to you later. Take care of your critters. Take care of your plants. Take care of the people around you. And, of course, take care of yourself, because if you don't do that, you can't do the other things that I told you have to do. And I think if half of us did half of that, half the time, we'd all have a life that's twice as good, a world that's twice as good. Thank you so much for being an awesome mod tonight, Ginger, an awesome person. I need to hurry up and finish your freaking art. I've got some done, but and same with Lucas Brett's. I have new shirts and things I'm supposed to do for him coming up in the future when I get some shrimp sent to me. But yeah. All right, guys, I will talk to you later. Sherry, you have a great night as well. Fish dreams. All right, guys, I am out. And probably have to go take another nap and more prednisone. That's just life as a lupus sufferer. I don't like the word sufferer. Winner, as a lupus winner. All right, guys, take it easy. Bye.